Somebody else is calling up on her.
Hello, Nate speaking.
I was disconnected.
Okay.
So Chrissy, can you hear us now?
Yes.
Okay. I'll check in with you periodically, okay? To make sure that
Thank you.
you're able to hear us. And if at any point you feel like it's been quiet or something too long, just speak up and let us know, okay?
Yep. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Chrissy. All right, we have 8, so we can go ahead and call our October 18th meeting to order. We'll do a roll call, and we'll do roll call votes because we have a member coming in via phone. Okay, Jen Fry,
Yes.
Brian Winslow on the way. Okay. Chrissy Berry,
Here.
Amanda Roy.
Here.
Sarah Carey.
Here.
Susan Levinson, here. Carol Martin. Carol. Megan Sabasco.
Here.
Lori Kilbreth.
Here.
Okay, and Kathy Brosman did call in today and she's not able to attend. So we do have a quorum with 8 members, and I believe Mr. Winslow is probably going to be here in a moment. First item on the top are public comments. We don't have any public here, so we'll move past that. And then we'll go ahead and move to the approval of our minutes from the September 20th meeting on page 4.
We got an email about a public comment.
You have an email?
The Northwood board received one at 6:10.
I think that's just for the Northwood board, not joint board.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we've made note that there was a public comment via email, but it went to the Northwood board, so you'll take that up.
Related to Northwood.
when you-
Yeah. I
Okay.
think that's.
All right, good enough. Thank you for thinking of it though, Chrissy. Okay. So we'll go ahead and start on page 4. I know in reviewing these, there are a few spots where the audio was not audible, and a couple of those related to motions. So we'll need to attend to that when we get to those points. So is there anything on page 4?
I don't know how important it is. I don't think Miss Osborne was here at that meeting.
I agree. So correct that on line 4. Thank you. I have one question on 22. The separation agreement was also noted to have had additional costs when Stratford left. I don't understand that.
I don't remember saying that. I think we were concerned about having additional costs. If I went back to the lawyer, I did say that. If I keep going back and asking where the separation agreement is, I mentioned that.
That would incur additional costs if you had to keep asking the lawyer, but yeah,
I don't know.
not,
Yeah, I don't even know if that
Came up in
came up
this-
at that point. in
yeah, I didn't think
business
so.
report.
Yeah, I don't think so. That's the only time I remember saying it. I don't think it was there.
What's the will of the board around that one sentence? It just, does anyone remember it differently or?
Is it possible for us to have Alex Trudeau, our the newly nominated joint board secretary, to review that and see if
So we'll review, hi Brian.
I guess.
We'll go ahead and review just that one sentence, I guess, line 22 for accuracy. And if it turns out that it really, if there isn't anything in that area, we can just strike that. Okay. Okay, anything on page 5?
Just the missing motion at the bottom of that page, but I'm not sure what it was.
Right,
audio
that
was
was,
a
I was
concern about-
noting
yeah.
that,
And I don't remember, unfortunately.
May I? I believe it was about the sub pay.
Okay. Yes, we did vote to increase. that.
Under, oh, and that was under
Preschool.
your, okay.
could we potentially have that review just to see if there's any
So the
get that
audio-
motion?
I think I might have made the motion, but I
I
can't say. for
don't
sure.
remember.
I didn't write it down.
I would get it down even.
We'll have that section checked just for the motion, the wording, subject. Anything on page 6? Oh, up on line 62, the current joint board secretary. Verify that a little further.
And then I think the motion on line 88 was to approve the front line. I don't know what to call it, is it a module or, and I don't
It was
think you
not
voted in
unanimous.
favor.
I
You're right,
voted against it.
right. So I think that's
I
what
have
the
an
motion
update
was.
on that as well.
All right, so we have to have that reviewed again.
So would you like to, do you recall the motion or would you like to have it reviewed?
I remember it being to approve the module, whatever that,
It
whatever you
was-
call it.
It was to approve the module up to $11,000
Yeah.
or 11,400, the quote.
Yep.
And it was,
Do we remember the type of the module? The- can't remember. I think that the language was there. Maybe we just have her quickly look at it.
I just think if she couldn't hear it, it's probably the timekeeping. I just don't know what the actual name of it is.
Oh, and I
And
It's
did-
on
then
the-
on line 88, it was not unanimous.
yeah, I actually do have the sub pay. I have we motioned and seconded. So
You've got on line.
for the sub pay, I just found
58.
it. I don't have the full motion. I just had to increase the sub pay to $90 and KM and motion, so Carol and Kathy seconded.
So Carol made the motion to increase the preschool
Sub-
substitute pay to $90 per hour.
Yes,
Per day.
per day.
Sorry.
I think I even made that.
Oh, gee, that's- you're like, oh, we're on. Yes.
I even made that mistake either here or.
That was
Yes.
Carol and Kathy.
Carol and Kathy. Yep, I did write that down. Yeah, I did.
So we don't have to have that.
That one, but I don't have the
Just
other.
that
written.
changed. Okay. And then we're gonna get a few more details, hopefully, if it can be heard. If not. All right, and then that motion was one opposing.
yes.
Anything else? Okay.
No, we don't. I will make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from September 20th. With, as amended and with review from our school board secretary, our joint board secretary.
We've got a motion to approve as amended and also with the reviews. requested.
1 second.
We got the motion in a second. Any discussion? Okay, Chrissy, could you hear that motion?
Yes, I could.
Okay, thanks. All right, we're gonna go ahead and vote then on the motion to approve the meeting minutes of 9/20/21 as amended and with the reviews that we requested. All in favor?
We roll
Oh, we got a
call.
roll call. Sorry, we got one. I apologize. Jen Fry,
Yes.
Brian Winslow,
Abstain.
Chrissy Berry,
Abstain.
Amanda Roy,
Yes.
Sarah Carey,
Yes.
yes. Carol Martin,
Yes.
Megan Sabasco,
Yes.
Lori Kilgore.
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay. So that motion carries with 6 in favor and 3 abstentions. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the committee reports.
We have non-public. Do we have a non-public?
We have public comment. We'll have non-public for the end.
No, I meant that,
Non-public minutes.
Minutes, did we have? We do, we had the envelope in there.
sorry.
I'll just look at with you. I won't go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the non-public session of September 20th.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the 9/20/21 non-public meeting minutes. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll roll call on this one. Jen,
Yes.
Brian,
Abstain.
Chrissy,
Abstain.
Amanda,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
yes, Eileen, Carol,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
and Lori.
Abstain.
So motion also carries the same count. Now we'll go ahead and move on to committee reports. Did any committees meet? I did speak with the auditor to try to plan an audit committee meeting, to make sure we had something, to work with. He indicated that he's coming in November. We talked about that. That he'd be starting with the activity accounts. He asked about the grant. What did you call it? When we had the grant person coming in to kind of review the grant review from the last set of financials. I told him that we had an individual here and she had started working on it, and then it was she had moved on. He was wondering about the report for that. So does the board have any interest in seeing the report of the individual that reviewed the grants?
She never gave us a formal report. She gave us some suggestions in an email and in writing, and we put those into place, but there was not a formal report.
Just an email. Okay. I think he was interested in that. I don't know if the board is interested in just seeing what her thoughts were. Since you had a material weakness in your financials and you paid her to look at it. So. Okay. All right, so that was the only thing. I don't know, at this point with the audit committee, I think we would wait a little bit. Looking at Brian, because he's the other person there. And, all right, and any other committees? Okay, and so it sounds like the consensus of the board is not to look at the report that your consultant, or the email that your consultant provided upon their review of the material weakness.
I mean, it sounds like it's not really a report. It sounds like it's just a couple of suggestions in an email.
Mhm.
For that information was provided though, as informational.
Probably worth reading. Yeah, reading through that.
Okay. All righty. Anything else under committee? Okay. Now, for double duty here on the business administrator's report.
So I took the time to look over the report, knowing that this was put together and printed out yesterday. And Mr. Waring has been diligently working on our DOE 25s. I will have you know that I did sign the final approved version for Nottingham today, and that should have been docu-signed to the rest of Nottingham going out so that you can review it. Northwood came through. We thought it was all correct. I sent it back out. They had one more revision, sent that approval, so we should be seeing the finalized copy for that tomorrow too.
Good.
So that is all squared away. So he's been spending the majority of his time on that. Because he's been spending so much time on that and not being in the building, what I have to say is when I looked at our financials, I will answer any questions that you may have, but I've seen lots of things that need to occur, such as encumbrances, because for instance, I just looking at my salary, there's been nothing encumbered, and I know I've been paid. So I know that's not right. So we need to go through and just look at where we're at year to date, because it says a budget balance currently of 100%. And like I said, those aren't correct. So I can see where some of them have been encumbered, some of them have not. Some of them look like they were over encumbered, because when I look through line by line and I look at page 2 on the VA report of the monthly, it's so I'm going a little quick in this, and I'm gonna then go back because the monthly, you have the revenue report, which just speaks to our money coming in. Then you have the broad overview of the monthly expenditure, which, as I said, I know isn't accurate. That's the year end balance. That one is, I'm sorry, I'll go back to that, but I wanted to go back to where we're at currently.
So looking at the monthly expenditure.
The monthly
report?
expenditure for 21-22. So not the full report. So it's his third page or the first page of the monthly report with every line.
Okay, so 1, 2, yeah, so it's
Okay.
the revenue report and then the expenditure report
There's
summary.
a summary. I want to go over the actual
You want to look
expenditure.
at the detail behind it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because when I look at it, they don't all line up. And why I was saying that is if you look at that first page, my salary says nothing's been encumbered. So we know that's not accurate. And then I started to go through, or that's accurate that it hasn't been encumbered.
nothing's
but
been paid either,
Right,
like
right.
year to date.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So there's, these all need to be corrected. That's what I'm trying to say is like, that you can see that the encumbrances, the balances aren't correct.
Yeah,
I know that some of them have been done, but they're not all being done. So I'm gonna be working with payroll and accounts payable. They've done some of it, but generally Glenn is the one who would go through all of these and do it. And since he's not here, my hope is that once we have our finance manager, we'll be able to really sit down and start to reconcile these lines and get them balanced out. Because one of the other issues, why I say I know there's other issues besides just not being encumbered, is if you go to page 2, halfway down the line, it says salary bookkeepers, and that one's over encumbered by $21,000, and that shouldn't be that way.
so you're looking at the budget balance. So it
Yeah.
looks like maybe the year-to-date column would be reflective of journal entries that have been made, actual keying
Yeah.
into the system when you do payroll and key it in.
Right.
It would hit your books. But that year, so those sorts of activities, like around payroll and such, aren't in the system.
That's my
That's
belief.
what it looks like.
Yeah.
And then the encumbrances would be more of a journal entry exercise, I think.
Correct. And typically what we know is, for instance, what you've asked to be done in the past is to start to encumber salaries and benefits that you know are going to be paid out. That was one of the requests, so that the encumbrances would show you, like, we've encumbered that amount, so this is what your year-end balance is going to look like on the things that we know are there, such as salary positions. You could encumber that whole amount. And then you could encumber the FICA and retirement against that as well. So it gives you more of a realistic number of what you still have left in the budget. Because as I work with you to try to figure out what we're going to do for VA services, what we're going to do for financial service, it's very hard to tell you where we're going to be at the end of the year, because I'm doing it on the spreadsheet where I saved money, but that doesn't necessarily tell us where we're at now. I know we have a good amount of savings in our lines because we haven't utilized the amount of time that we budgeted for Glenn, and we haven't had anyone else in his place either. So, and that's been a month, so that's one solid month of not doing that. So that's a good savings there. So there's multiple different areas where I know there's savings, and I also know that there's some overages in spots that shouldn't be there. So my goal is to work with Glenn or whoever we bring in over the next month and a half, because it's not gonna be a 1 month fix. I can't imagine it getting squared away in a month, but within the next month and a half to have a better idea of what it looks like, you know, in January and February, so that, and that's typically what we've done in the past. We've started to encumber things and we've gotten in it. And it wasn't until about March that we had everything set up and it was going smoothly. My hope is we can get it done a little sooner than that, because I know that you, as a budget committee, my hope would be January, budget, as you're building your budgets, not budget committee, as you're building your budgets, you'll know a little bit more of what your surplus funds are, so that you can decide how to use them the following year, so that we get a better idea.
Chrissy, I'm just checking in with you. Are you able to hear us?
Yes,
Okay. So I just have one
Yeah.
question. The encumbrance, I completely agree with what you're saying, and that is a, you know, a great tool to have it more forward looking. So the column I'm kind of more concerned about at this point would be sort of the operational column, which is your year to date.
Right.
So if those entries aren't made to reflect salary, then that can impact your cash accounts and so forth, because it's not being reflected through the system. So that's the higher concern, or,
No, I agree. That's why I said I know it's not accurate, because I know I've been paid and it says I
Yeah.
haven't.
yeah.
So like I knew right away that when because this was printed yesterday, and then I got to see it today when I got back from the conference.
Yeah.
I looked at it right away, and I haven't had a chance to sit with Glenn to go over some of this.
Yeah.
But my goal is to ask him what he will be able to do to reconcile this a little bit.
Yeah, I'd like get those entries. in.
Get those entries in, who he would work with and how he might be able to get that done. And as I bring forward, and later in my report, the nomination, I know that the person that I'm bringing forward understands how to reconcile and how to do this stuff. So I think it's just going to be doing some flex time at the beginning, so that her and Glenn can work together on some of this, so that she can start to get that squared away for us. It's going to be a little bit of a learning curve too, how to use iVision. So, but that paired with our people who are here to know it, we'll be able to get through it quicker. So that was, when we look at the monthly expenditure overall, year to date, I don't know that that's, I can't even tell you where that currently is accurate or not accurate, because I know there's too many errors within it.
Yeah.
But this is what was provided, so I just wanted to, you know, I
This
know
is
that's what you
accurate to what the system has.
in it right
today.
now, right? So that's all of the monthly expenditure report. If there's not a specific question to this one, I'd be, you know, I can write down some notes if there's a specific question. I already know what I'm going to be tasked with to try to figure out and get through, so that we can get this looking more accurate.
I think that's the question. I mean, we could go through and take a guess at everything that hasn't been listed in here so far, but
Right.
we're not gonna catch everything.
Yeah,
No.
it doesn't.
Having them catch it up.
Right. And that was my concern. So that was one of those things where I'm going to try to start working on it. I wanted to make sure you knew that it was
Work in progress.
a work in progress, and it wasn't, I understood that I wasn't blind to the fact that the encumbrances and the year-to-date numbers weren't correct, and we'd be working to get that squared away. And what I would say is, if there are no direct questions on that one, as we look forward to the preschool, those have very many of the same issues. I believe what, as I said, not believe, I know that what Mr. Warren was focusing his time on with his very limited, 5 to 10 hours, was really getting everything squared away for the DOE. And then I knew he was going to plan on coming back and starting to work on these issues to itemize and get through them faster. Are there any specific questions on the preschool lines? Those look to be a little more completed, to be honest. Because when you start looking at the encumbrances, they've encumbered the salaries, they've encumbered the FICA.
Mhm.
So when you're looking at what the budget balance is, I think while it's not finished, it is a little more complete.
Mhm.
Because you still also have to do some bill backs and stuff of that nature. So. Specific questions there. The following are your joint grants. These are the remaining grants here that are still tied together. We are working to spend those down. Missa Valley has been really on top of it, really making sure that everything is spent through. I have no question that all of this will be squared away. The one that's here, the 202-607, if I'm not mistaken, that's the last combined, and that's it said that there's a $62,000 budget there, but I believe that was,
It'll be
all-
closed with $5 left.
yeah, it'll be close to $5. That's all of our Cobra. That last balance was the Co-Brown, the last time we were gonna be utilizing the CBI, so community-based instruction within the grant. From this point moving forward, it will be one of those things that is just spread throughout all of the special ed costs. That grant will be down. The other one is already closed. It currently shows that.
The 18-19 was closed with $28.92 left.
And while we try to spend every penny, when you're looking at $22, it gets really tricky because of having to go in and change all of the activities, and they had to have fallen in the correct year span to do it. So like, and we won't know that all the way until the end. It could have been one mileage that we thought was going to be higher. Could have been a workshop that came in less. It could have been a toy that we thought we paid a learning toy, but a toy. Like we bought something for the preschool and we thought it was going to be $35, and it came in, by the time Amazon billed it, it was $17. And then they try to go back and find a way to spend those last two. It's challenging. We shoot for below $10 anytime we can, but sometimes that happens, especially when you factor in the percentages that the indirect costs. So that is
That was the year-to-date 21-22.
yeah.
The grant reports that are currently combined. And the preschool financials. And we'll just probably be able to see cash flow. I don't think cash flow would be able to be relied upon at this point.
No,
We don't
no.
have the entries in, which, you know, that's. So that would be next time. And then for the year end, 6/30/21, I know he was working on Nottingham and Northwood to kind of close those and do the DOEs. Does he have a sense of a timeline to kind of where we're at for that?
I will ask him. He did not share that with me.
Does the board have any questions?
Grateful to Glenn for giving us the time that he can
Yeah.
through what he's been able to get through.
So I will ask him again, out of the business report part, I will look for the information from the consultant, and I'll also ask him where he would be at with the year end for SAU. And preschool. That's the SAU.
Anything else for them? Good. All right. So move on to student services.
So my student services report was in your packet. So preschool enrollment, not a lot of changes in the preschool. Our class sizes still are 5 to about 11 students, so we do still have a few openings. We have 2 openings for 4-year-olds tuition students, and a few more than that for 3-year-olds. We do have a few students receiving scholarships, so that's good, because it's always good to get those kids in that need it. And just wanted to mention that our child check clinic is scheduled for this Friday, so we'll have all the people that need to be there to do a round robin screening for kids. We currently have 5 children signed up for that. We would still sign anybody else up that calls. We did some pretty good advertising in the community, so I'm happy about that. The alt ed service enrollment, again, not a whole lot of changes, some changes to the part-time students, but that is really because at the beginning of the year, there were kids kind of left on the books from last year and that were enrolled in grad point classes. And so it takes like through the month of September to figure out which kids really need credit recovery. And so there's a little shifting around in the part-time students in the fall, but that's what you see is there. Any questions about the enrollment for either preschool or alt ed? Okay. I don't have much else. I did go to the Kidder Law Conference today, so there's some really good information about right to know requests. That was really helpful, and discipline and Title IX, which are things that I oversee, and then some, I also went to the one on the education freedom accounts and free speech, which was interesting. Yeah, some good topics. Any other questions for me?
Everyone's good? Thank you. We'll move on to superintendent's report.
So in my superintendent's report, I believe there was a addendum sent out today. I did send an additional letter around the table. So the first part of this is we do have 2 resignations. Emily Trapp, which we had talked about, Amelia Trapp, I don't know why I said Emily, sorry. Amelia Trapp, I'm glad she's not watching now. Amelia Trapp, Joint Board Secretary, effective 9/30/21. We knew that one was coming. The one that came as a little bit of a surprise was Miss Debbie Lee, our Special Ed Secretary. She's been with us for 13 years. She accepted a position with the Northwood School, who lost their Special Ed Secretary, or she is retiring after 20, 30, like a very long number of years with Northwood, and she put her retirement in to be effective November 28th. So when Debbie saw that there was going to be an opening, knowing that she didn't have a position next year, she needed to go after it right away, and she did. And while I said it would be a great loss to us, I understood that telling her no wouldn't be beneficial for her down the line, because there might not be another position. With that being said, I've worked with Miss LaValle as well as the other office staff to figure out a way to fill this, because it's going to be very hard to hire someone who has the special ed background and expertise in very short notice. So what I'm going to be putting together is, with the board's permission, I would like to offer additional hours to our current receptionist. Wouldn't bring her up to full-time, but additional hours to help out with Jill, Miss LaValle, to get what she needs to get done. And then Miss Lee, because she really does want to not leave us in a tough spot, she is willing to do an additional 2 to 3 hours a day. Some of it I did grant that she could do remote, because it would be Nessus, and we can track what she's doing and when she's doing it. Nessus keeps track of all your login, all the time you spend, and that's a bulk of what she has to do anyway. So between Miss Lee doing some of that work, and Janet, Miss Carlson, stepping in and doing some of the additional stuff for us, and coming in earlier than what she had typically, we'll be able to hopefully get through this difficult situation. But that's the resignations. So I don't need a motion right now on that, but I would like to discuss that in more detail afterwards. I just wanted to make sure that you knew we were planning for it. So it is 11:30, not 11:01. It's supposed to be effective 11:30. Yeah, because she's going to start 12/1. Sorry, it's effective 11/30/2021 for Miss Lee. She's giving us a lot of time to get through it. Then for nominations, I would like to nominate Alex Trudeau for your joint board secretary at $20 an hour out of local operating budget, and Valerie Boyce as a finance manager at $56,000 out of your local operating budget. You will see in your packet, you did get her resume. We did meet as an interview team. There were the 3 of us. We met with her. She had some strengths, some major strengths in this. I think that she will be able to really help us get through yet another difficult transition. And what I will tell you is one of the reasons she's very excited to take on this opportunity, even though it is a risk as a short term, she would like to become a school BA. She's been a finance assistant for a couple of years here and there at different spots. And she would like to pursue her BA. She wants to grow, and she felt like this might be a good way to do it. And she also said that it might be a good, how do I say, not recruitment, dry run for the boards to consider if, as they move forward, they might need, they're gonna need a finance person at both boards anyway. So with that, I would take a nomination or a motion for these the resignations and nominations.
Motion to approve the resignation of Amelia Trapp and Debbie Lee with regret, as well as to approve the nominations of Alex Trudeau and Valerie Boyce as just presented and discussed.
Second that.
Is the board interested at all in getting feedback from the interview before you vote? You can do
Oh,
it
you-
non-public or no, or do you just want to?
Was this the person that you had originally? Okay.
No.
Okay.
This was
I just wanted to
like
make sure because
box
you had had
number
some
8.
questions.
This was
Okay.
like box number 8.
Okay,
So
gotcha. I just wanted to make sure that wasn't the person you had
no.
referenced prior. Okay, thank you.
So we do have a motion, but I'm just asking, is there anybody that wants, if you do, that wants to go into non-public toward the end to hear feedback from the interview for the BA for the finance manager position? No? Okay. So we have a motion and a second.
Guess I'll ask a quick question. I think with the finance manager position, we'll still probably be contracting with Mr. Warren or someone like him still part-time for some of this higher level work too.
Yeah, 100%. I was going to discuss that right after, because as a part of the plan, what we looked at, we spoke about it as an interview committee. We afterwards, we also, I had looked at some different options. So what I would hope to do is be able to keep Mr. Waring on to give institutional knowledge for a few hours here and there to work with yet a separate BA consultant who I'm going to be working with to, this is not out of an organization. This is a private individual who is a certified BA and working as a BA now. So that person was able to provide me up to 14 hours. And it would be at the same, pretty close to the same rate that Mr. Waring is, but he can't give any time during the school day because that's currently what he's doing. So it'd be some evenings and weekends, but we'd be able to flex with Miss Boyce, as she said, she'd be able to flex some time. So we're going to be able to, between the tripod of like the 3 different people, keep everything going smoothly, the hope for the rest of the year, and be able to get through. The individual that I'm going to bring on as a consultant, I believe has many, many years of experience and is highly looked upon by his colleagues. So it'll be nice to have that expertise.
Great. Good.
So Mr. Waring will continue with just a few hours a week.
As long as we need him, he said he'd stay for me, but he will be more than happy to step down once we have something else more
I
aligned.
think it's really important to have a business administrator with experience that can maybe help with some of the filings, or just knows the ins and outs, and
I
think that will be
totally agree.
really good. And I will say that the auditor also recommended that you know, that would be a good thing if you could get it done. So. Okay, is there any other discussion? We have the motion in a second for those. So we can just roll call if there are no additional questions. Good. All right. Jen,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Chrissy,
Yes,
Amanda,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Carol,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Lori.
Yes.
Okay, so that motion carries.
Okay. So under personnel too, what I'd like to discuss is I'd like to be able to bring in Janet, as I had mentioned, some additional time, the receptionist, to come in some additional time to help with the stuff that Miss Lee will no longer be able to do on a regular basis. I also want to be able to offer Miss Lee some time after school to get things done. She'll do them for us because no one else would be able to do them. No one has that experience. In the meantime, one of the things that I wanted to offer or have her do is to continue. She's been working and training Nottingham's special administrative secretary to get things and learn the process. So she's going to continue to do that. They're going to do that from now until the November 30th. So they've been meeting on Fridays to get some of that squared away so she knows what to do. So we're going to do all of that. But what I'd like to do is have permission, a motion from the board to allow me to give these two individuals extra hours, providing it does not go over any, overexpend the budget. If I can keep it within budget, I'd like, which I know I can, but I'd like to be able to provide those extra things.
So you're looking for a motion to offer additional hours to the receptionist and the special education secretary.
Yeah, keeping her on the books as opposed to, she's resigning, but I'd like to bring her back very much similar to what we did with Miss Hodgson. She came back and helped. I think that Miss Lee wouldn't just be for a short time though. I think her 2 to 3 hours would be pretty consistent, or a day, 2 to 3 hours consistent for the rest of the school year if she's willing to do it.
Okay, and by the budget, you mean the bottom line budget for the SAU?
I'm even thinking the budget line that we have for Miss Lee, because what we're gonna wind up doing is Miss Lee will only be doing 2 hours. Miss Carlson gets paid less because she doesn't have the years of experience. So even between that line won't be over, just that solo special ed secretary line won't be overspent, because you're also gonna wind up saving in retirement and medical benefits in that line. I do want to look at what we need to do and speak with HR to make sure that we stay everything correct with Ms. Carlson, to make sure that we're not impacting that. But I from everything I've looked at, we have up to 35 hours, and Ms. Carlson does not want to work more than 35 hours. So because I talked to her, so that would keep her under retirement, and we would just look at what we need to do from there.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we authorize the superintendent to provide additional hours for the receptionist and the special education secretary, provided that we stay within the budget.
I'll second that.
The line,
As discussed within the budget lines. Yeah.
so currently we have a full-time person budgeted there and all the benefits, and that person would be using 2 to 3 hours come December 1st.
Correct.
And then the hours for the additional receptionist would also come out of that line. So
Correct.
it's unlikely that we'd expend that entire line.
Correct. And you should see savings in both health insurance and retirement associated with those lines. You might see a little retirement because I just want to make sure we're following the rules. It's 35 hours. We're currently looking at less than 35, but I just want to verify that.
And you feel like this would be okay with morale, that people would have, sufficient time to do all of this, and they'd be able to execute the necessary parts of the job as well.
This doesn't put any more stress on our business office. It will, except for the fact that Miss Lee always stepped in and did things to help them. But Ms. Carlson has experience in payroll and accounts payable, so she might be able to step in and help as well. I think it's going to be a morale hurt solely because it's Miss Lee, but not because it's not necessarily because of the position. I think while the position is truly needed, I think it's the bigger factor is it's Miss Lee. So the hope will be that she'll be able to come in when there's no school in session, but we're open. She would be able to come in and do some work for us here during the day to help out more, but the goal would be the typical 2 hours a day, 2 to 3. So
What point will you post for that job?
No,
We're
We
not
won't
gonna post at all this
No.
year, or are you gonna post for next
So it would
year?
have been the joint.
it's
That's what you
only
were-
joint,
Okay.
so it would be
Oh,
for
okay.
next month.
That's,
Yeah, okay.
that's,
All right.
that's exactly,
That's
yeah,
me.
it's,
Okay, I
it's,
gotcha.
since there won't be one next, that's actually why she's leaving, is. 'cause there
Right,
won't
right,
be
right. I got
one.
that. Okay, sorry. I just wanted to make sure. Sorry.
No, you're good.
One thing that maybe we should discuss in non-public and, I mean, the sense that people feel there'll be nothing, when in fact there are two districts that will have positions, so I, you know, I think that I think that it's unfortunate if people do feel that, you know, that potentially their jobs are just completely over, so.
I think she did if she didn't take this job, because there wouldn't have been one for her. So if Northwood, because you already have a special ed secretary in your building, and you had only budget, you weren't including that position in the SAU, and she knew that, and Northwood,
Mhm. I don't think we've approved,
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, anything
I know what
finally
you're
by the
saying.
board. We gotta try to get the board moving on that, so hopefully it'll be this next meeting.
Mhm.
But, yeah, so
I
anyway, I
understand
just
what you're
think there's a lot of, I hate to have people feel that stress, if in fact it's not quite as dire as. So everyone's ready to vote? All right, so we have the motion and the second. Chrissy, just checking in again.
Yep, I can hear.
Okay, great. So we're about to vote on the motion to accept the resignations and the nominations, okay?
Oh, wait,
No, we
let's
already
do
did
that
that
one.
one.
Oh,
the
So
old
this
motion.
is a motion to,
I'm sorry.
to authorize the
For the extra-
superintendent to
I'm
add
sorry, I
additional
apologize.
hours.
Chrissy, it's for the, just for the extra hours, okay?
Thanks.
All right, okay, Jen,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Chrissy,
Yes,
Amanda,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Carol,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Lori.
Yes.
Okay, so that motion also carries unanimously.
Okay, and I have one more thing under personnel, and this goes to everything that we've talked about already. I would like the board to give me authorization via motion or consensus that allows me to seek the contract with the BA to be a consultant, providing it does not overexpend the cost center. I'm gonna go with the whole cost center because it's between Miss Boyce coming in with a full-time position, so she'll be entitled to benefits and retirement. And it's not gonna be the same salary as the BA, so it won't be the same retirement, it won't be the same, all of that, so the cost center of the business office. Providing I don't go over that cost center, I would like to be able to bring in a consultant to continue to help with those services. And I will recruit the consultant and I'll send out the information like that.
This is for the current BA in the
Yeah.
other district.
Yeah, I just want, I'm not, the only reason, I don't know that he has informed his district yet that he's going to do this, so I don't want to share it with everyone yet, but he's given me his paperwork that for me to sign a contract. I'm gonna go over it one more time with him to verify, and then once he's okay with it, we'll share it at the next meeting who it is. But it will be, as long as it stays in the cost center. That is all I wanted for the motion. So I don't know what the total hours will be. I don't want to say it's gonna be 10 or 14, because one week it could be 14 and the next week it might only be 6. But
So you're saying that you bring this person in as needed and it won't cost more than our current consultant and our current budgeted.
our current amount that we budgeted under the BA lines and the grant manager line that we
Mhm.
budgeted. So I believe the total combination of those lines is about 200,000. So we won't overexpend that.
And
So
you
for-
have to have up-to-date information in your financials before you, so you know where you are. Because
Correct.
you don't have that right now.
I have a spreadsheet that cheats it, so like my own personal, but yes, I want to update it. And I know that we'll stay under because of the salaries. What we might have to do is just, what it would really be is, the goal would be to work with them all the way up through March, and then it should get much slower after March, after the voting and all that stuff.
So something, if you're gonna bring them forward as a motion next time, you just want consensus then?
I just need consensus that I can move forward with him so that I don't get him all squared away and then, it'll be the same stuff that I've done before where when I was gonna engage with the other company and that didn't work out, but I gave all the information so you could see what we were looking at, we could see what you're doing. And it was just saying, yes, you could move forward with it. It's the same thing. So he might start prior to our next meeting, but you'll have a formal overall thing to see.
And a contract to
Yes,
sign
yep.
at the next meeting.
Yep.
Laura, you had a question?
I was just
about-
wondering, like, I know you're gonna stay within the budget, but if you're gonna let us know how much per hour.
It's
like-
$90 an hour.
Okay, I just want to. confirm. Thank you.
Okay, so you have consensus to pursue
you.
that, and we'll see I see a lot of nodding.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would-
And then at the next meeting, we'll see the contracts.
You got it.
Thank you.
Alright. Anything else?
Nothing on the personnel.
Online, see, I happen to see Mr. Graham today.
I also have I have a correspondence though.
Okay, great.
Ooh.
I'm sorry.
It's
So
in
did I send the email?
there.
No, it just came in today too.
Okay.
So the correspondence, I just want to let everyone know at the same time, Co-Brown is going to be hosting their joint retreat on November 3rd. That happens to fall on your meeting.
Mhm.
In the past, we've all attended it and then we've gone upstairs and had a room. So if that's something you'd like to do, I can make sure that they know we need a room and
So
Can
we
you explain
take-
what that is for
Yeah,
those of
what
us?
is that? I'm sorry, it's in our contract, Co-Brown provides 2 meetings annually. We do it in November and May. And they will update us on all their pertinent information, status on their kids, academics, any new initiatives. Is that pretty much cover it, you think?
Yeah, basically,
Yeah.
it's a bunch of presentations about things that are going on and some statistics and
Mm.
new courses being offered and what their goals are and stuff. It's,
And so we do those, and then usually what we would do, we've done it primarily, we just typically would have that meeting, it breaks at about 7, I
Mhm.
believe. And then we head upstairs and they give us a room and we have a meeting there. Depending upon, what we'll be covering, it usually works out okay. There have been 1 or 2 times where we've traveled back and had a later meeting at 7:30 in Nottingham, so we can do it either way, but they have classrooms and they've given us for the most part, that's what we've done. So, we can talk about that Wednesday. We'd have to, make sure our posting reflected it.
So what time? Sorry, so that's November
November 3rd,
3rd at what time?
6 o'clock. I'll verify that, but it does. It's
Yeah.
6 p.m.
They have refreshments and all their trustees are there and their administrators, and you'll see Barrington and all the other districts that have students. It's probably about 50 people, I'd say, usually 50, 60. And if you have questions, you can ask them there. If- As a group, as a board, if you have questions, you can submit those ahead of time if you wish. And then Stratford the agreement, it's in, as we said, it's in their court,
Mr. O'Shaughnessy's hands. Yeah.
right? So I believe Mr. Graham followed up with Mr. O'Shaughnessy today, and he's gonna look into what he has.
I saw Mr. Graham too. I thought this would be a good time to hit him up without another phone call. And then the update on the SAU building lease, the landlord did go on vacation. He didn't get back till Thursday, so he had given me a verbal that he will extend the lease by a month for us without an issue, so that we have time to move anything that needs to be moved to the other locations. I had asked for it to be in writing, but where he was on vacation until Thursday, I'm waiting to hear back from him. So
I'm trying to remember the status of the lease itself. I don't think I signed that. I think it went back and forth. Maybe we did, and then we said, oh, maybe we should do, so we might need a new, just that adjustment.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask for him in writing, because as I shared with you, when we reviewed and we asked for the additional lease, the statements didn't line up anyway, because it said the full amount, but in 11 months.
Right.
And if you did the math, it was a little off. So what we're looking to do is go for the full 12 months at that balance that we had budgeted already. So we're just looking to take on one more month to give us time to move out. And he did say he could do that without an issue.
Anyone have anything? Any questions? Chrissy, are you okay? Do you have any questions at this point?
No questions.
Okay. All right. Do we have any other items at this point that you feel haven't been addressed to this evening?
Did we want to, do we want to just update on our separation? I thought that was a standing agenda item. Let's just, as we work through.
Yep, we can, I think we
I
should.
think it should be
Yeah,
going
we'll put
forward.
that on. So we'll add it. Did you want to go ahead and,
Sure. So the Northwood Restructuring Committee, SAU Structuring Committee is officially, well, we're meeting tomorrow at the library in Northwood at 7 to finalize recommendations for the Northwood School Board. So it's myself and Jen. So the other 3 Northwood board members have yet to hear them, but I did share in correspondence with the chairs of Nottingham that one of the considerations that may be adopted as a recommendation tomorrow is to do a Northwood Town only preschool. And I wanted to share that with the Nottingham board. It's not officially, like I said, it hasn't become an official recommendation yet. And then as to the Northwood School Board, it's still up for the board to decide what to do with their recommendation. But whereas that's probably the most impactful thing for the Nottingham community, I just wanted to make sure that that's on your radar, that it's being discussed, and it's definitely a possibility. So
how many times have you guys met at this point?
at least 5, I think. Yeah, we were doing before board meetings, and we started doing also the off week Wednesdays and meeting a lot earlier to get more hours in. We toured the Northwood School, we toured the SAU, trying to talk about configurations for space, and obviously going through like a staffing org chart. And again, it's kind of zeroing in on recommendations, but tomorrow's one more work session to look at numbers and hammer some things out. So
That's good.
yeah.
Carol and I are the members from Nottingham, and our transition committee has been meeting. Gosh, I can't, probably 6 or 7 meetings or more at this point. I don't really. And we've toured several buildings in town, a couple of buildings in town, and we have to be working with the Board of Selectmen, I think, on that to determine, how that would work. We've got a tour planned of our building this week, so we can see if there's anything there, but those spots are pretty tight. We're talking about software. We plan in our first meeting, at our meeting in November, to talk to BMSI. I was going to look for a little feedback on who we could contact from Tyler and talk to them about coming in. We've done a tentative draft, which the board will take up for staffing. Anything else, Carol, that you can think of?
That's it.
About it. Just a lot. When you start really working on it, it's a lot. And things change. So
Yeah, I think especially starting kind of like we haven't spent a lot. We've talked about technology needs and our servers and whatnot, but we haven't had the deal like with you have with a lot of the licensing stuff. So
we really just have a list. We were trying to get like just a quick network diagram of what's here and also what's in Nottingham. So we're still kind of waiting for that. And I think you're at some point going to need to understand throughput. So that when you do pick a system, depending upon where you end up with your SAU as well. So that's the other piece of it. So we're still at a point where we're developing a lot more questions than answers, maybe. But
yeah, good luck.
one question I did have on that is I think BMSI did do they're doing Stratford. And I wasn't sure, do they have a contract? Did that contract go through here at the time? Is it here? Can we get that or?
Mr. Stanley has put together a good spreadsheet for us. It did not go through here, but
Oh, okay.
Mr. Stanley has a pretty decent spreadsheet that shows the comparison of the cost layout and the structures that I was going to bring to your next meeting.
Okay, great. I might ask Stratford if you guys wanted to see it. If they have the contract, we could just look to see.
Could you just, for those of us who are on the newer side, what is the MSI?
I don't know what it stands for, but they are a software company that runs like an ERP system, an accounting system. So it's got multiple modules, and you'd be using it for your accounting, same as iVision, but smaller. More, I think scaled a little bit for. So we'll know better once we talk to them.
I do have one more other. It didn't fall under any of those things, so I wanted to wait. So I wanted to give an update on the frontline module. After further communication with them and Frontline's restructuring of their end users, they had changed their structure, which is nice for Infinite Visions, but did not work out well for us for time management. They now have unlimited users at all times for almost all their products, and it doesn't cost more. So while I could have initiated the motion that you had authorized for $11,400, I did not. While it honored the motion, it did not honor the spirit of the motion. So I chose not to sign the contract, and we did not put it in place. What I had explained to you at the time, well, you as a board. I'm just
Oh, yeah.
looking
Oh,
at-
I was like,
No,
I missed
like you as a
something.
board, no, going back and forth, you as a board, was that they would be prorating the amount for smaller districts the following year would not be 7,000. They said that is not the case anymore moving forward. So once they told me that, I said, well, we are not going to do this right now then. Additionally, there was one additional item that they wanted to add on, which was a special key. So it integrated completely into iVision, which was another 4,000. We didn't need to have it, but it would make it more, it would make it go faster. And at that point, even though the 11,000, it did fall under the 11,000, it was not the spirit of what the board voted for. So I said I wasn't going to do that. If the board feels differently and still wants to put in place to expedite payroll and everything else, because it still has all the same benefits, but it was not what I told you. So I was not going to authorize it without re-explaining the fact that it is $7,000 next year for both districts. There is no reduced cost. And that is not what I said. So I was not going to approve it.
Can you explain the breakdown of the 11,000 we had talked about? then?
Yeah, so 4,000 of it was a startup cost to get everything updated and everyone in the system correctly in the way it needed to be. And then 7,000 of it was the annual agreement. And it was a little less than that solely because we weren't using them for the whole year, but that's what the 7,000 was. And what they had told Glenn when we started this process all the way back months ago was that it was based on the number of users. So there would be a reduced cost when the districts were smaller. When I got Aaron on to get everything squared away, Mr. Stanley on to get everything squared away, he came back to me and said, hey, they've changed their structure. Now it's 7,000 regardless. Next year, that's what it's going to be too. And I said, they still wanted it here. They really said it would be a great asset, but that's not what I explained. So I didn't want to move forward with it being that's not what I explained. While it would have followed the motion, spending less than 11.4, it's not what I explained.
Were they gonna charge us the startup cost again next year?
No, that would be a very minimal charge. That they did say would be, if you stayed with it, that would be less because Mr. Stanley would be able to port most of that information over. There'd be very minor cost to it, but the 7,000 would be there. And I had said it would be lesser, like 3,000 or 4,000, and that's not the case. So I just didn't feel comfortable saying yes, especially knowing it wasn't unanimous in the first place.
So the startup cost for next year would just be reduced a bit?
It would be, they didn't give me an absolute
Right.
number, but because Mr. Stanley, if you use it, Mr. Stanley imported a lot of information for Stratford, which cut down that cost a lot, as long as, you know, you have that expertise to transfer all that information. There isn't a large startup cost because it transfers over. Because you already have other frontline modules inside of your district now.
Is there any cost saving this year by putting this in place? Like, are we saving on personnel costs or something else?
And I'm not gonna say you're saving on personnel costs because they're here, but you're saving on redundancy, and you're saving on them hunting and tracking down stuff that doesn't take place correctly, or they can't read it, or they can't understand it. And then there's crossouts and scribbles, and they're not being submitted in a timely fashion. This system was partially put in place already when we were working remotely, and some pairs were using it to log their hours when we were all remote. So it was partially put in place, but it wasn't fully embedded, and this would fully embed it. So there's still a benefit to it. It's just not what I had explained in the cost structure. Miss Osborne was very clear that she felt, as an HR component, it was still strongly needed. And I know that payroll thinks it's needed. It's just, as we get audited, those time cards are not very clean sometimes.
So it will fully embed it into iVision.
No, it's a quick export instead of, like, if we had the key, the key's an additional cost that's fully embedded. You don't need the key to make it run. It just makes it run even more fluid. So it's I don't know how to give a good analogy for it other than the fact that, like, it's a two-pronged approach. The first prong gets you everything going so that it's all digital and they can export it as an Excel. The second prong is they don't even have to export it. They just push a button and it goes right into iVision. They still have to do a little bit of an export, but it's much more manageable because now it's no longer dealing with collecting time cards sent up at different random intervals and trying to track the writing. And if they miss a time card, asking for another time card. It will also really truly help with your grants, because your grants all have a time and effort maintenance and a time card that has to go in. This would clearly state this is for your stipend, this is for your grant. And you'd be able to separate those time card pieces. That was one of the things that was a recommendation, was to have a better time management system. Because we weren't always able to get the reports at an touch of our finger.
I wonder if the respective transition committees need some time to think about, are we going to use it next year? And then come back. Because in my view, I think it's needed. I think our transition committee should look at having it next year. And if we're going to have it next year, then it would make sense to put it in this year. But if Northwood decides differently, or our board decides differently, then.
Yeah, that was gonna be my point. If we individually, we decide this is something we'd like to use next year, getting it this year lets us split the startup cost and make it a minimal, a little bit of a savings next year, but we all have to then, know that we're ready to pay for the yearly fee of the $7,000 ongoing fee. So.
Yes, that's correct. The only thing I will share with you is whether or not you use it next year, and this is totally up to you, and that's why I didn't do it, is the way we're limping through right now. I'm thinking anything that can give our business office a leg up. I think it's, like you said, it's needed. I get the weight to see what you're doing on your end, but like we won't meet again for, well, it's not as long this time. It's only 3 weeks, but we won't, we usually meet once a month, and that's a whole nother month that they're still dealing with the time card mess while they're doing everything else. So
right now, teachers, they don't do time cards unless
only
they have an
if there's
exception.
stipends, if they're Title I teachers, if they're doing coaching, any of those types of things, they might.
So their normal scheduled hours just go in unless they're taking time off.
Right, yeah.
And the hourly folks, those are the ones that are.
Those are usually ones that get us the most issues, that slow down the payroll the most.
And the cost of the 7,000 a year. Now we're in, getting close to November
It would
to
be prorated.
June, so it's significant.
Yeah.
But the startup is the startup.
Yes.
So let me just make sure that I have this clear in my head. currently as it is, if we were to adopt it today, the cost would still fall in budget. It would still be similar to what we looked at last time.
Currently, yes.
The difference here is that yearly costs would go up $3,000 or $4,000 for each district. Right? Okay.
Yeah, it's in the budget. It's in the, currently in the budget. It's just, that's not what I told you, so I didn't
Right.
want to do it.
Are there any other questions or suggestions or?
Could I ask that we put this as an agenda item on our next meeting and that each of the boards has a conversation to decide what they want to do for next year on that?
So for the November 8th, we'll take it up and our respective transition committees, restructuring committees will look at the details. And can those committees get a little bit, they'll be newer to them. So is there something that,
I'll try to put something together.
does that work for everyone?
Yeah, I know our board has 2 meetings too this week and 1st of November. or
We have
November
transition
3rd.
this week.
We have a board meeting this week and we have another board meeting, so
Right,
we'll
and then
have.
another.
We'll have
plenty
had
of
2
time.
board meetings
Prior, we'll
before.
have to be able to get
Right.
a transition in right place. Yeah. So I don't think we'll be taking it up tomorrow. In transition.
I think we could mention it,
We
but
can
yeah,
mention it, but I don't think they'll be in a
we don't need all the
position to.
details. Yeah.
That just gives a little time.
Yep.
Alrighty. All right, so that was other. So the takeaways from that is we're gonna add the standing item for transition conversations, okay? Our future meeting agenda items, I think we've covered. Is there anything else that you'd like to take up at the next meeting? We'll probably have the official lease change. We may have, we'll hold that separation agreement. That's fine. Not quite as pressing as we thought, right? So, okay, and then we'll just add the whole transition piece. Okay. Our future meeting would be for November 8th. That's our normally scheduled. It would be a tight term. Is that too tight? Or that's fine? Okay. Do we have a need tonight for a non-public?
I think we should talk about some transition stuff that came up today. It would be helpful to talk briefly.
So just have a brief non-public.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Then. So would probably be. C? Or is there more detail that you'd like to have there?
I was thinking B and C. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I guess it's C. This one.
So maybe A. All right, A, B, C. All right. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Jen.
you.
Nice to see you.
Okay, so take a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A 32 A, B, C.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
And we'll roll call in. Jen, did you hear that? Okay,
Chrissy.
I'm sorry. I'm really tired today.
There's a lot of.
Yes,
Yeah, okay, sorry. All right, so Brian,
Yes.
Jen,